everyone. Thank you for hanging in there with me. I'm so glad to see you. I came down earlier today because I hadn't done anything on the quilt. And 6 hours later, I look up and go, oh my gosh, I have got to get ready to do this show. So I really got lost in it. Have you ever done an art project that you just get into so deeply, you're not aware of anything around you? I hadn't had anything to eat, nothing. So, hello. So then I ran upstairs, I got a blouse to wear, and forgot an important undergarment, if you know what I mean. And I was not going to come on air without it. And oh, yeah, was that Cheryl's beautiful work? There's Kathy Boyd. Hi, sweetheart. There's Charlene and Polly. But I've got a story. And some of you might have heard this already, but I've got a story about certain undergarments because when I'm home, I don't like to wear them. And so one night I was loading a quilt on the frame. Oh, thank you. I promise this is a true story. So I was loading a quilt on the frame and not wearing a specific undergarment, just had t-shirts, my uniform at home, leaning over the front. Linda's back. Hi, sweetheart. Oh, it's so good to see our Linda. And Carol's here. So I'm leaning over this frame, loading a quilt. And any of you who have one of those frames, you have to crank the handle and load it on. And then I had it fully loaded and I was trying to advance the quilt so I could do some more quilting. Well, all of a sudden, I realized I had inadvertently rolled a pear into the quilt. Let's see if you can figure out what I mean. I called Mark. I didn't move. I said, you got to see this. He comes in there. Well, that's interesting, he said. I said, look what I rolled into the quilt. He said, honey, you gave yourself a mammogram. So that is one of honest to goodness. That is it. Polly caught me on it. So that's a true story. And, if any of you have reached the age of 65, things just aren't where they used to be. So, I tell y'all everything. But I figured, you know what? This is our time to kind of chat and tell the truth. So anyway, let me get a drink really quickly. But I've got a lot. I did a lot on the quilt. I can't wait to show you. I've been pretty busy this week, not cleaning the room. The room is still a mess. But remember what we started working on Sunday? I finished it. And here is the back quilting. And I'll give you on Sunday, I'll give you the rest of the information about it. It took me 6 hours. And I quilted it on my domestic machine because I'm determined to get better at that. And don't worry about the yellow. That's chalk to make sure that when I did my echo quilting, I'm going to get a damp rag and try to get the chalk off. But I put my walking foot on my Juki and I quilted it all and stitched around each of the squares by machine. So I'll give you all the instructions this week. Maybe I'll draw a quick pattern. Do you think you would rather have a pattern that you can because what I did is I saw a picture and just kind of did what it looked like on the picture. But if you want me to, I'll make this into a pattern. All right. So here I have my folding table set up because I had so many fabrics for today's landscape that I said I needed more space. But first, before I show you tonight's quilt, I got a lot done. Before I show it to you, I want to see who's here. So, oh, and Kathy B, I don't know if you ever contacted the people about the Denton, North Carolina retreat. I just found out this week they've got another one coming up in March, and I'd already put my deposit down and everything. So, whoops, I see a piece of thread. Everywhere I go, I'm scattering threads. So anyway, if you could go in March, let me know, and I'll talk to the person who's in charge. But anyway, so Marsha's here. Marsha's the first person here. Yes, Valentine's Day is coming. Charlene Lawson. Hi, sweetheart. And let me see. Who else is here? Kathy Boyd. And Barbara Smith is here again. Hi, sweetie. Okay, let's see. Oh, yeah, you're so close to Denton, Kathy. Polly is here. I had to change the start time to 7:40 because I said, whoa, I got to get ready. I had to go back upstairs to find the rest of my clothes, all that, But it's going to be worth it when I show you how much I've gotten done. So, Charlene Pfeiffer is here too. Hi. Oh, it is good to see all of you on here tonight. Love, love, love. And of course, our Mary is here. Love our Mary. Mary, I hope I gave you some good hints about if you do a landscape and you don't have a big stash, what do you do? And I told Mark, since I haven't been to a quilt show, I haven't been able to replenish my stash for landscape fabrics. And I said, that's a problem. If you go to like quilt shows, you'll find vendors who'll have little fat quarters of all different kinds of landscape fabrics. But if you don't go, where do you get them? And I found a person on Etsy, but it was expensive. And I said, I wish that I personally could buy a bolt of every landscape fabric and then sell you fat quarters. But I'm not sure I'm ready to get into all of that. That's a lot of work. But anyway, I will be watching around. I will be keeping notes of where I see landscape type fabrics. And when I say landscape type fabrics, I mean greens that have the kind of pattern in them that work really well as bushes and trees, sky fabric, water fabric, all those just unusual little things, sand fabric, things like that, so that you can gather them too. And when you see it, grab it. Even if it's a fat quarter goes a long way for a landscape quilt. All right, let's see who else is here. Linda, we are so happy to see you. And Carol is here. And oh wow, I was worried about my Linda, but I have kept that little felted mouse, and I haven't shown him the last 2 Sundays, but I kept it on there because I was hoping that we would see our Linda McCollum again. So okay, and Polly and Cheryl Hogan, hi. Dolores is here. Hi, sweetie. Oh, wow. I wonder if the link got changed or held up because I moved the time back. I don't want y'all sitting here for 10 minutes going, where is she? So, okay, I hope I have. Polly has actually seen my landscape fabric, and it's just certain ones. Boy, my greens. Get more greens than anything. Greens and skies. And water, because those are the ones are your go-to. I used the last of my favorite tree fabric today, so I'm going to be looking for more. Oh, Good, 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 Mary. Yeah, because I know, Mary, you're probably away from kind of stores, anything you could find. So I've got my Inktense pencils here and all this. When you see a mess of fabric everywhere, you know I've been productive. So let me turn off this light over here. Are you ready? All right, I'm going to show, it's only half done. I'm going to show you, and then I'll go into detail what everything is. Here is the beginning of my snowy landscape quilt. Okay? All right, now, so let me show, I'm going to take you step by step to show you what I did. Oh, and if Pat Fry comes on here, I owe her a picture. I'm going to draw a picture of a covered bridge for her. So I do owe that to Miss Pat. So, hello, Pamela. So nice to see you. And Debbie, I didn't even mention Debbie's name. Hi, Debbie. I don't want to miss anybody because I'm so grateful you're here. Okay. Let me move some things out of the way. What I've done, let me show you this first. I hung my pattern for this with tape, hung it up here above where I was working. And here then now, let's go look at it. Last week, you saw that all I had done is torn the piece for the blue sky. And this piece of fabric, I left it over there. It faded to a pale barely a blue, baby blue here. Now, the one thing I don't like about these ink tints is the yellow on top of the blue fabric tends to make it look green. So I'm going to check into what to do about this, because this was just this blue down to a pale baby blue. And then I used the Inktense pencils. And here are my Inktense pencils. And here is the lid for those, although it's now a whale, if I'm right. Then here are the Inktense blocks. And since I had a lot of the sunset to do, here are my Inktense blocks. And what you can do is make a little pot of color. Use a bigger brush to brush it in. So I used the orange, the yellow, and some white today. But the one thing is I would have to check too and see, is there a way I can keep this from looking green? So I may have to come back over it with some more fabric and do it again. So if anybody knows, please tell me. Okay, so I put this strip of sky fabric in. Then I did the painting for the sunset on it. And then I let it dry. Oh, maybe I'll try that. I don't know. Did I try laying in white or off-white? I didn't think of that. Linda. Oh, you are so good. I didn't think of that. I will definitely try that. So then once I put in this strip of sky, I started cutting the fabric for the tree line back in the distance. And let me show you. It's 3 different fabrics. The most intense is closer to the eye. The medium intense is the middle row. And the lighter or grayer of the greens go to the back row. What you will notice is things farther away from you tend to go gray or paler. And so they can, dark, medium, and then lighter. Then after I did not glue these down, I just did them. And I did the thing again where I do tons and tons and tons and tons. Okay, Linda, I will definitely try that. And I did tons of little cuts just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then taking and trying to pull loose some little pieces to give that very frilly tree line. Oh, thank you. Hi, Jody. And so I cut these, but I didn't put them down yet, okay? Then the next step was to start blocking in color. And I want to tell you this too, is that the only white fabric that I have in this entire landscape is right here on the roof of the cabin. The rest of these are shades of blue or gray. So you remember what I was telling you? If you're going to do a snow scene, last thing you want or need is white fabric. You have white with things in it. Let me show you. I'll show you the fabrics I used. Okay, this was one that I used. I'm going to use this one for like footsteps in the snow and things. Yeah, you're right, Marcia. Landscape quilting is so much fun. This was one I used, and this is a light teal. Okay, what else? This was one of my die projects that didn't work. And boy, have I used this. See how it's got blops of blue on it? I use this a lot. Oh, thank you, Rose. But see all of this? That was a fail at dyeing. And then I might have used a little bit of this, but I know I used a little bit of this. It is back in here. But see all of this? In fact, no, wait a minute. It wasn't this one. It was a lighter version of this one. I just had a piece of it left, so I think I used pretty much the whole thing. So, but I did not use this one. Although, I forgot about this. Yes, this is another piece of dyed fabric that didn't quite work. But hey, that's pretty cool. So, okay, so those are what I used for my backgrounds. This is up in here, and then the blue and white, and then some striations. This is a piece from a gray ombre, and the reason I put this up front is because, do you see the striated lines? It's really awesome. So what I did is I looked at my images. I'm mainly using 2 images, but parts of others. And so what I did is I said, okay, up here, this is supposed to be the top of a hill near the sunset. This is bright because it's up high. Then as we come down, because the trees are shading on it and things, and then the undulations in the snow, I needed some dark swaths. I saved a nice bright light gray for right here. Oh, okay. Take good care, Miss Carol. So good seeing you. Thank you, hon. Okay, so that the gray went here. You notice I used pure white for the snow on top of certain things. This is going to be my creek bed in here, and then another tree right here. And then I blocked in these spruces, but don't worry. This is just the base, and then the thread painting that I do on top of this are going to bring those to life. All right, then I blocked in my trees. And as we continue on, I'm going to be using white thread and thread paint snow and a glassy look to these. But today I'm going to show you how I get this lighter and looking better. But then it's going to take thread painting for this. Now, I'm about done. I'm about done with the log cabin. I really concentrated on this. And where you see a bright white, like here and little bits here, that's a white acrylic paint. What did I do? Here it is. Just white acrylic paint, okay, done with a very fine brush. Then I also did some definition work with a good permanent black pen. I stuck down the branches so far. I've stuck them down with glue. And since they were going to be tricky, because they're so thin, I went ahead and used a tacky glue. Okay, because I knew that would hold. Normally, I don't like using the tacky glue because it's too hard to get it up and move it around. And these were just cut out of 3 different types of tree fabric because I ran out of this tree fabric. And then I just did a little birdhouse and then took and just cut this out of white so it'd be the snow that stuck on top of the birdhouse. But here is my little birdhouse, and that's done out of another wood tone fabric. In fact, it's the same fabric that I did this group of trees. Now, behind these trees, this is supposed to be a wooded area back here with a bunch of little scrub trees, okay? And so I put this behind the trees that I put on there, okay? So there's a piece of that back here, which gives shadows and makes it look like there are more different, there's woods back here. And I may add some of that in little areas back here. I haven't decided. But I put just a little touch of a stone foundation showing on the side of the cabin. I did the little lean-to right here. I did a little bit of stone for the chimney. I did a few little strokes with the acrylic paint for the smoke coming up. I cut different colors. This is one fabric. This is a different fabric so I could get a darker look. And then this is yet a third fabric to look like the dark shaded side. So that gives it that three-dimensional look. I still have a leafless shrub that's going to go here. That'll be done with thread painting. Use a sealer, let it dry. Oh, okay, thank you. Yes, that's a great idea. I just have noticed, I think I do too much rubbing on it. You know, when I use the textile medium, I kind of scrub it with the brush because I don't like the pencil marks left, and I think that's where I get myself in trouble. I'm still relatively new for learning, but this is not really, it gives you a hint of birch, but it's a little bit contemporary. So that's what I used. That's what I used to give the feeling of a little woodland right in here. All right, so believe it or not, I worked on this 6 hours today. So anyway, but I just wanted to lay down the color. You see the trees that are farther away are a little lighter. As you get closer, they become darker and a little bit more specific. How did I do the windows? Okay, good question. Thank you for asking. I first put the dark in. Okay, let me get up nice and close so she can see what I have done. All right. Whoops. Come on. Don't act up. Oh, let me see. Okay. Let's see how I did the windows. All right. Whoops. And what looks really cool is using this Sharpie very fine tip. Whoops. A Sharpie very fine tip, and I could come in here and give light lines to look like the siding, because this technically is kind of a tree bark fabric, but see, you just kind of, whatever works, you use it. Okay, for the windows, I did dark inside the windows first. Then I came back and used a little white here. And I'm going to show you the inspiration piece and how basically I just copied what I saw on the inspiration. Okay, and then this one, it wasn't as specific. I might come back and try to do a little bit more fine lines. This window was very dark because it was in the shadows. I barely put a line there, but I noticed in the inspiration, you could see where the window sills were. Okay, so now this is a good time, and then I'm going to show you. I wish I could have had some just pure gray bark here, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to calm it down. Trapunto, I hadn't thought about that yet, but if I do, that's a great idea because what I can do is cut and add an extra layer of batting. Let me come back out. I was showing you things as if you could see and forgot I was on close-up. But I could come and add extra layers of batting if I want to like show a hill or something like that. And then putting the snow around the base of the cabin really helps to seat it in place, make it look like it's not flowing. And Trapunto is Trapunto. T-R-A, punto. I had to learn all those things, but I'm going to show you how to make these trees look better. Right now, I'm just telling you, all of these trees are too bright, but it's a matter of layering, and the layering gives it that depth and that realism, okay? So now, let me show you real quickly. Let me get the camera back up. Let me show you very quickly our inspiration pieces, because then you'll go, okay, I see why you did that. It will help you understand, okay? And thank you. I love how you're doing. I love how you write in all caps so that I can see it and ask the questions. All right, let's find the two inspiration photos I used today. Here is the photo I used for the background. You can see the sunset here. You can see, you probably can't tell, but there's 3 lines of trees. Little bit here, this one longer, and then this one further back. Then see how there's a bright area of snow that the reflected light from the sunset hits? Then if you'll notice here, see how blue some of these areas get? And by doing the different fabrics, you can define the different snowbanks and the curves in the land. So you notice all the different colors that it changes. But this is the lightest of them because it's closer to the sun. This is light because it gets reflection from the sun. Then this is where you get a lot of the blues and grays. Now, do you notice right across here, it's a little rise that's reflecting some of the sunset? So I took my Inktense orange and drew a line, and I'll show you that on the work later. But notice too, any footprints, any little area where things are coming through the snow, it's blue or blue-gray. But you also see why I did my sky. I don't like the green I have here, so I may have to replace that, do it again. And what I might do is paint it before I put it on. And that way it's not glued down and I'll know whether I'm going to like it or not. So I used part of this. I used the sky. And I used this to notice, okay, how do your eyes differentiate between the different levels, hills, whatever. So that's how why I chose to do the colors I did. All right, now let's check the other one that I mainly used today. And this, now these are two very different scenes, but I'm combining them. This has been an ice storm or very wet, heavy snow is in all the trees. I'm not going to do it as heavy as that, but when I get into thread painting, I'm definitely all the little, I like having the color of the tree show through. But now, okay, so talking about my cabin and the windows, I just copied what I saw. I'm kind of a monkey artist. Monkey see, monkey do. So I noticed, you see how the darker edge of this cabin in the shadow? Then you see a medium, and then it gets very pale up here. And so I just copied that. And then here, it's kind of whitish near the top, and then more of the paint is worn off as you go down. Now, I added a little more obvious snowbanks because I really, I wanted to push that home. I added my own chimney. It's not really here, but I did notice the way the edges of the roof are warmer. The roof is dark, and it's melted that little edge of snow. So, but see how you can see the windows? And because of, this is where it helps to learn perspective, because that really gives the cabin that look. If you look, these are 6/6 windows, okay? Which means 1, 2, 3 panes, 4, 5, 6 panes. That's the top windows. Bottom, 6 panes too. But since you're seeing it from an angle, the far left pane is just a sliver, and the other two are bigger. And take note of things like that and copy the same thing when you do it. And that will really nail in the perspective. It's all those little things. It's not really tricks as much as understanding what you're seeing from that angle, okay? And this window was so dark, you barely can just see a little window line here. What I find interesting, I would love to see what this cabin is like. This is a tall, skinny window. This is a shorter window. Where is this window? I have no idea what this little cabin is, but it's interesting. Now, my trees, I placed slightly differently, and then I imagined a tree stump and trees over here. But I also wanted to have some spruce in the background, so I'm doing some things a little differently. Now let's see if I can find some of the spruce trees to show you why I love them. Look at these trees up here. Aren't they beautiful? I also love how the grasses are coming out of the snow. That gives you some interest. And this, I got the idea of putting a fence along the front of mine, which I will be doing. Okay, let's see what else. Here, from Miss Jamie's house. Jamie took this picture on her street. I fell in love with both the spruce trees and the weeping willow, and both are going to be in my artwork. Okay, let's see if there was something else I used. Let's see. No, this had a fence in it too, right down near the bottom. And another thing to tell you, here's another spruce image. Spruce trees to me are just so pretty, so elegant and pretty. And see how the heavy snow kind of tips them down? So you'll notice I did that with my spruce trees. And I can't wait to put the white. Now, I'm not going to, the spruce trees catch a lot of snow. So not all of it is going to be thread painting. I'm then going to take some white acrylic and help dab to make sure it looks like there's spruce trees loaded with snow. And if you can see now why I did a background of my trees, and then I'll come in with the thread painting and get the wispy ends of it and then put the snow. So those are spruce. And this I use for the beautiful shape of those oak trees. They're just beautiful. And this I used, whoops, let me get this bigger. I used this to remind me of the very soft, full edge of the snow near a creek or ravine. Okay, look at this. Now this is beautiful for the spruce trees, and looking how heavy. And the thing is, that's why I cut fabric to put in here. Because then by the time I do my thread painting and any acrylic paint, I would not want to go in and try to somehow then put dark green in between it. So you start from further back and come forward. And the thing that when it comes to thread painting, whoops, I didn't mean to turn it around. This is the one that I'm using here. This is where I got my inspiration for doing a little creek bed. And you notice this full plump, how the snow comes right to the edge and it's full and rounded. So we'll be getting ready to do this. This coming up week, I will have this and teach you how I do that. Notice too, you have reflections. So I'm going to need some white fabric, some gray fabric, a little bit of light charcoal or dark charcoal fabric, and I'll finish showing you that. And see the little grasses peeking out of the snow? That's a lot of fun because that gives more interest. Giving your eyes something to look at. Okay. Oh, I know what that was. That's another pattern that I'm making for y'all. So I'll get that ready. But anyway, I didn't use this for anything. Oh, no, I did. Look what this is. There's my tree stump. And see, it has the little mound of snow on the top. I thought that was so cute, so I added that. That's why I love doing my research, because I don't live in Canada. I don't live in Norway, and I have to, and here I got the idea for the birdhouse. And what I need to do too is see how the snow kind of sticks to some of the bark. So I'll be working on that too. Okay, let me see. And I did the kind of snow, built up some snow at the base because I noticed that, you know, when the snow blows in, it tends to pile up at the bases of trees. Okay. All right, I think that's pretty good to show y'all. Let me see. Is there anything else? But on our site, I did put these photos on the site so that you would have just about everything you need. Oops. You would have about everything you need to do the work. All right, so now I've shown you how did I use, and that just shows you, look for the details. Look at what's in the photos. Determine if it goes with yours or not. Since I'm not going to do the woodland, it also made me very sure that I had to do variations of the snow so that it wouldn't look like a monolith. It wouldn't look all the same, okay? So, but now I'm hoping that you can, oh, is Barbara leaving? Bye, sweetie. Take care. So I'm hoping this gives you, oh, so now I'm going to show you the brown bark. Remember that in a snowy situation, by the time that we take this and, whoops, come on, by the time that we take this scene and we add the extra snow, then it's really not going to have a lot of color. Because if you've noticed, some snow scenes, depending on if the sky is gray, if there's not a lot of sunlight, it tends to dull down the colors and everything becomes more black and white. So what I'm going to do now is put some of this white paint in this cup, and then I'm going to thin it just a touch with just water. And then, let me see, what did I do with my paint brushes? Okay. Let me see. Oh, and I also used a ruler to measure things on my pattern and to make sure I put them, because you know, you draw your pattern out on the fabric, but guess what? Then you cover it with all the blocking of color. So that's when you go by the pattern, which the pattern is hanging up right here. And I will sometimes measure to make sure I've got dimensions right. But what I'm going to show you right now is I'm going to gray down these trees just a wee bit. So I'm going to come in here with some charcoal gray Inktense and color on some, especially this one here. Remember, make the things that go behind, make them darker, okay? Show the shadows. That will show realism. It'll get depth. So really put the charcoal on the parts of the branches that go behind others to give it that look. Okay, so now I've put some charcoal gray Inktense. And here it is, charcoal gray. Come on, Inktense. Charcoal gray. And see, this is really a color fast dye. All right. So now I've got the acrylic paint with a little bit of water. I might even put a touch more water. What I'm going to do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lighten and gray down this. I'm going to grab, believe it or not, I'm going to grab a little bit of this. I'm going to grab a little bit of this black here. I'm going to just wet it and rub. Now, I have to rub more than you would think because since I use, okay, so now I've got the brush loaded with black paint. So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put it in my white. Do you see how you see the black in there? So this is going to give a nice grayed down white. Now what I'm going to do right now, if I had my black acrylic or dark gray acrylic, I could always add that to it too. But I'm going to come in and let me add a little bit more water because I don't want to take all the color out. I just want to minimize it. So now what I'm going to do, let me turn this around because I want you to be able to see this in a snowy setting. These trees are too intense. Okay, so I'm going to bring you in closely. Whoops. All right. These trees are too intensely brown. Okay, but I needed to use a different fabric because these trees are different and I needed a little color. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to brush, kind of scrub brush this paint on like this. And then what you'll find is this is where you don't always have the right fabric, but you make it right. Do you know what I'm saying? Is you just say, okay, I wish I had some gray tree bark fabric, but I don't. How can I make it what I want? And I just want it to look different than the oak trees that I did on the other side of this. Okay? Now, I don't know what kind of trees these are, and I don't know if this is botanically accurate, but it's okay. It doesn't have to be. I just know I don't want all my trees. It's not like we're 5 years old anymore and we use brown for every tree trunk and one green for every. Okay. This is just, let's tone down that brown. Few trees are ever truly brown. Most are this really interesting mix between gray and brown. And, but see how much better these look now? The one thing that when I tell people about getting landscape fabric, don't try to get literal landscape fabric. Don't go literal, because then pretty much all you're doing is cutting and pasting. I want you to be able to use your creativity, which also means you don't have to buy as much fabric. All right. Now, when you really get into this, then you can decide what trees should be even darker. And then you can come back with some charcoal gray ink tints and do your shadowing even more. Because sometimes when the paint goes on, things change. This is a multi-step process. Okay, take care, Miss Cheryl. So good seeing you. All right. So now do you see now what I'm doing? And if you get it on the other fabric, I keep paper towels handy. And let's say you don't want it as heavy on them. If you start to put it and it's too much, if it's too heavy, take your paper towel, scrub it off. Once it's dry and you have ironed it, then it's pretty much color fast. Most of the time it's color fast the moment it dries. But if you just wipe it on, you can get a lot of it right back off. Okay? So I wanted to show you this, even though I didn't have the proper color for the branches. This is what I was telling Mary too. If you don't have the right fabric, make it the right fabric. Okay? And adding the gray, I really wanted to tone these down because I've never seen that. Where I live, probably the brownest bark you see are in crepe myrtles. But even then, it's not dark brown like this. But unfortunately, fabric companies don't always go out and take pictures of real trees. They do collections for people, and, well, we need a brown for this. Okay, we'll make the tree bark brown. So when you are a textile artist, this is part of your job, okay? And what I can do, I will save this paint, because, boy, it doesn't take much. It goes a long way. I will save this paint, just put a piece of plastic on it, and see, it's not that much, but it goes so far. I will let this dry, then I will come back, and I will come back later and see if I need more. Okay? But like I say, if you get it where you don't want it, then just take a paper towel and go over it. All right. Now, so let me hold it. Let me go back out. Whoops, the other way, Deb. All right, let me go up here and show it to you again and let you see if it looks better. And it may take a couple times to get it, but now it's not so bright brown. And I think I definitely do need more up at the top. But I think the best thing to do is to let it dry, and then if I need. Now, I tried earlier today putting some white ink tints. The white Inktense pencil is kind of tricky. If you brush over it, the white tends to disappear. And if you notice, this is the color I use the most. And it's hard. So, hi, Patty. Oh, Patty wrote me the nicest email. Thank you so much, sweetie, for caring. That was so nice. But you'll notice that the white gets used up so much. And I try to be very, very careful. But that white is not quite strong enough to really, that's why I came in with acrylic paints. And anymore nowadays, these quilts are multimedia, which means you can do anything you want on them. I'm going to put a little bit of this on these trees here. And what I'm doing, let me just show you. Instead of doing it all over wash like I did with the other one, this one I'm just going to kind of, let me see if I can get up a little closer. Okay, here's what I'm going to do with this. I'm just going to take the side of this brush and just kind of reinforce that tree bark look. Whoops, it would help if I had it in the seam. Here we go. All right. So I'm going to dip it in just a little. And, when you dip your brush in, just kind of pat each side. That way it leaves a crisp brush line, because I'm just going to kind of go in here and do little up and down movements, because look how much more like tree bark that looks when you do it. Don't get it on your birdhouse. I may put a little bit of white near the face of the birdhouse, and where the birdhouse might have a little roost to stand on. But I'm going to go along with these and just kind of do these nice little bark-like type lines. Now, I'm not going to do them on the side right here, because that's where a branch was, and that is now a scar on the tree, and usually they're dark right at that edge. That's the collar. It's a healing collar, that where the branch tried to, the tree tried to take care of itself. So when I do down these branches, I'm going to come in like this. And I'm just very carefully. Now, this one I'm not going to do as many. This tree is farther away. So I'm going to be a little less obvious. This is going to be a little more kind of blurred. So, but you see what I'm doing? And see how that you can take whatever fabric. Now, this fabric is sitting up right there. What I'm going to do once I do some of this is then I come in with invisible thread, and I will zigzag all of this down, okay? I should have told you all that earlier. So just remember, when you get all of these where you want, zigzag them down. But I want to show you now, though, and see how I don't do straight, big, long lines. I just do little wispy, and this is good for several things. It's good because the snow, if you have that much snow, it'll actually stick to the bark. So I'm just going to come along and enhance the bark. At the same time, I'm lightening the tree, because sometimes this tree fabric is just too bright, too much color. Okay, so see how I'm doing this? Because there's no leaves, it's just the tree bark. I love how this looks now. And in fact, I could even come in with a little more white on top of the branches, where you know the snow would be sitting as it falls. So, whoops, okay. So just come along the top of the branch and put a little snow. And it will look so much more realistic. When working, no, I usually don't have to, but I do know that you have to go slower. Now, anybody else, when you do you adjust the tension? You could try to loosen it a little. I think the main thing is I just make sure that I use a thin thread in the bobbin. You don't want a nice thick bobbin thread because that overwhelms the invisible thread on top. So if you have So Fine from YLI, any of the threads that are very like a 60 weight, that would be really, really good. Use a nice, gentle bobbin weight so they're more balanced. If you have a problem with the thread breaking, then you could try. But I don't often change my thread tension. I try to just work with it, slow down, speed up, and change your needle. Like when I do invisible thread or metallic threads, it's very important for me to use top stitch needles. They have a longer groove in them. And the longer the groove, okay, here is a sewing machine needle. Whoops. Here's a sewing machine needle. There's a groove right here that the hole is, where the hole's placed, and top stitch needles have a longer groove there. The longer the groove, the less stress on the thread you're sewing with. It's more protected in that long groove. Well, that's perfect because if it's really protected like that, then that means it's less likely to chafe and break, because that's why if you're using metallic or invisible and it breaks, it's getting too hot or it's chafing too much, it's rubbing, and what a mess that is. Now, what I'm doing right now is putting extra snow at the joint near the tree, okay? It is easier to machine sew, but of course you can always, I love hand sewing. You can hand sew anything. If it gets too hard, because it got a lot of layers, if it gets too hard, then consider going back to a machine stitching. And you might have to, with all of the glues, with all of the things that you're adding to this fabric, you may have to get new needles more often. And that's not a problem. But when your needles go through the glue and multi-layers of fabric, they wear out a little faster. And I would also, when you're doing the stitching on this, I would use a large needle, like a 16, a jeans needle. If you can get a size 16 top stitch needle, then you're doing great. So, but top stitch needles are perfect anytime you're using unusual thread. Now you'll notice since I've thinned this paint, when it first goes on, it looks very white, and then as it sinks in, it looks less white. That's really perfect for your first, for just giving some, top stitch needles are perfect for using decorative threads. And they're worth their weight in gold. I quilt with top stitch needles because anytime you have that much stress on thread, then give it a break and use a really nice, I love Superior top stitch needles, and they have the ones that have the extra coating. They are by far the best needle machine needle. Now, hand needles, I prefer John James, and like for applique and things, and Milner needles and straw needle. I love any Golden Glide large eye needle from John James is a thrill for me. It's English steel and it's wonderful. So, but anywhere there's a little crotch in the tree, make sure that that snow builds up on it. But I really like what do you see the difference in this now? Can you see that how much more realistic it looks? And you'll notice I still leave some shadowing. Like here, I'm going to lighten up along here. But I'm careful. I have to decide the sun's coming from this way, so I can put a little lighter on this side, leave this side darker. Always think where, and see, this is behind this. Do you see this branch comes across? So this is good that this is a little darker. And then it's important that this one's a little lighter because it's in the way of the sun. And you see it. It's closer to your eye. So just kind of remember where your sun comes from. Remember what the weather is. And this is, to me, this is so much fun. And it ties into, we did our last project was to do painting on fabric. And so it goes right in with that, which I love tying the same skill together. I love that. And you notice I didn't do much painting over this dark area because I love that. Oops, I'm out of range. I didn't do much painting over this dark area. I love that because I keep thinking maybe it's a wound in the tree and a little raccoon lives in there. And so I try to, develop a little thought process for what is this tree's life, who lives there, what's going on, and it makes it more fun. It's just a lot more enjoyable. All right. I think that's pretty much it for today. And that was with the leftover gray and white that mostly I did for over here. Now okay, and you can see a lot of browns coming back through that. So I'm going to come on now with a second coat. And let's see how this works. If you notice it starts becoming too white, add a little more water. I think I'm going to do that here. So let me grab a little bit more water because acrylics dry quickly. All right. So just kind of put another layer. If any of you like Linda and Carol and Charlene, any of you other artists, please feel free to give hints and tricks because we are a community here, which means we love gathering as much information as we can on this subject. I'm self-taught, so some of you might have gone to college for this, and I would absolutely love. And maybe you've just taught yourself some things and learned trial and error. So please always share. You've probably noticed other people have been doing that, and I highly encourage that because that's how we learn, is by sharing. And to me, that's very important, and that's why I try to offer you these things free, and I do it just because this is all, the more knowledge we share, the better the common good. So there we go. All right. I think that's that for tonight. Let me step back and show you the quilt and see if you like it better. What do you think? Oh, I can already tell it's better. What do you think? Did you ever think that doing a landscape quilt would be so much fun? And this is what I'm here for, to get you to just play. Try it. Just play. See what you think. Also, alert for some of you who like to find good YouTube videos to watch. I found Kay England's, a couple of her videos. She is adorable. She reminds me a lot of Mary Ellen Hopkins, who, God rest her soul, I loved so much. And Kay England believes in having a lot of fun, so she's a lady that speaks my language. So look for, I do believe it's Kaye England, and she's a hoot. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And next week, we'll be working on our creek and our fence and cardinal. Okay? All right. Anybody that wants this free pattern, please, please, please feel free to write me at our time. Whoops. Hold on. Let me get my, all right. If you send me an email, hi, Kim Hicks. Oh, that's wonderful. I'd love to see yours and their work. Send a picture to me, our time to quilt at, and I hope that's quilt, at twc.com. Send me your photos and I'll share them with the group. Send me your request and I'll send you the free pattern and free inspiration photos. It is so good to see you, Kim. I am so tickled. I can't wait to see y'all working on that. So it is a lot of fun. Take care. Have a great week. Stay warm. Do something good just for you. You can't take care of other people unless you take care of yourself first. Mwah. It is great seeing you, Miss Kim. I spoke to Christopher about you recently. So it's so good to see you. Mary, it was great. Yeah, please tell anybody wants these free patterns, write to me. I get a kick out of this. Bye-bye, you. You're the best. All of you are the best. Thank you. See you next week.